This is the Crowdcrux Crowdfunding Podcast with Sal Briggman, where we cover everything you need to know to launch a successful crowdfunding campaign. We speak with proven entrepreneurs who've raised money from the crowd and want to teach you how to do the same. Stay tuned because we're about to reveal how to launch your dream project with your host, Sal Briggman.
Before we get started with this podcast episode, I want to take a second to introduce you to my friends at Fulfillrite. If you need help shipping out your Kickstarter or Indiegogo perks or rewards, Fulfillrite is the absolute best company for you. I've been working with them for a while and I can vouch for their services. They make it dead simple and take all of the headache out of shipping out all of those boxes, all of those orders to your backers and your customers. If you want to check them out, go to fulfillrite.com at FULFILLRITE.com. What up, crowdfunders? Salvador Briggman here. Welcome back to the Crowdfunding Demystified podcast. And on this podcast, we get into crowdfunding. We get into what you need to do if you want to raise money on Kickstarter or Indiegogo. I try to sort of bring to your awareness at least the different components of crowdfunding, because it's actually not as simple as people might think. Quite frankly, we're seeing every single day like campaigns being funded. We're seeing 6 and 7 figure projects. We're seeing so much demand, but at the same time, we're also seeing lots of projects that fail to hit their goal. I'm seeing lots of creators who end up botching their order fulfillment phase and shipping out rewards to their customers. So actually what I want to do today was I want to get to a segment of crowdfunding that's actually not too explored, even by myself. This is the shipping and fulfillment phase of crowdfunding. So you have this product, basically, they're going to ship out to a bunch of people. These people could be around the world. You could have different SKUs of the product in terms of sizes, in terms of functionality. How do you actually get this package onto someone's doorstep? And that's like when the fun happens, because they can give you all the feedback on that actual product and they can take photos of it and post it on Instagram or on Facebook. And so a lot of cool stuff happens once they actually have the product in their hands. So what we're going to do is we're going to nail into a very super in-depth episode where I brought on the director of operations at Fulfillrite, Joe, and he pretty much answers my questions on pricing. He answers my questions on how, what's the difference between like USPS, UPS, which is the best for you. What about FedEx? What about some of these other like DHL? How do you get your backers a tracker number? How do you create a customizable box for your product? Something that looks nice so that when people open it, it kind of like is the Apple branding there. Like you want people to associate your brand with the packaging as well. And also some other stuff like how do you estimate duties and taxes and how do you ship things to people internationally? All those questions that I think you might have, those kind of like nitty gritty questions. Going into a campaign, things like inventory, how are you going to store this? If you're going to use a fulfillment company, what is this whole like pick and pack thing? What is a pallet? What is a SKU? This is like a different language, guys. But I try to keep it no nonsense. I ask him very simple but dumb questions sometimes because I also want to know the answers to some of these. So he brought his A game. He shared all of it with you, and you're going to hear that today. In addition to checking out this episode today, go and check out some of the other episodes I got there in the archives of the Crowdfunding Demystified podcast. Got a YouTube channel at youtube.com/crowdcrux, my blog, Crowdcrux. And finally, if you are interested in booking a one-on-one coaching session with me, And finally, if you are interested in booking a one-on-one coaching session with me, I am now offering that where I will review your project. We can get into the launch plan that you have, get into some of the other resources I might recommend, answer any of your specific questions that you might have on like agencies or on people you should work with or on how to save money or on how to actually do Facebook ads or like anything like that that you've covered or that I've covered in the show before. We'll try to get into all the answers for your questions. So if you're interested in a one-on-one coaching session with me, that is crowdcrux.com/coaching. If you're still in this like learning phase and you don't want to have a coaching session, a good start is the Kickstarter launch formula. This is a book that I spent a lot of time putting together that is available on Audible. That book is crowdcrux.com/Kickstarter audio. So the two links today are crowdcrux.com/coaching or crowdcrux.com/Kickstarter audio. Hope you enjoy my conversation with Joe. It is coming up right after this. Hey man, so I'd like to get started here, just some basic questions. And these these might sound a little bit dumb, honestly, but I also want to get a better understanding of fulfillment and shipping. So my first question for you here is, if you have this new crowdfunding campaign, eventually you're going to have to ship out rewards to your backers. I know that postage is like one component of fulfillment. So we're going to get down to these in this interview, but the first thing I want to start with is postage. What's the difference here between like USPS, UPS, some of the other options that are out there?
Okay, that is a great place to start because that is something, no matter what you do, even if you want to do your fulfillment yourself, if you want to hire somebody, postage is always something that you have to pay. So the other thing I'll just throw out, there isn't such a thing as asking a simple question. Every question is important, and some questions, that you might have, you might not want to ask because it sounds so simple, but it's very important to make sure you clarify all your questions, even if it will sound simple to someone who has more experience with it. Mm-hmm. With regard to shipping, so there's a few things to keep in mind. Obviously, let's say we'll start in the U.S. If you're just shipping in the U.S., so USPS is generally the cheapest option. It depends again on how heavy your item is and what the size of your item is. But generally speaking, USPS is cheaper. However, if you want more tracking or international tracking, you want to make sure that door-to-door tracking, USPS is not always the top tracking out there. Mm-hmm. The other thing that you do get with USPS is that there's two things that USPS, which you will have more, is they don't have a residential fee. Once you move on to the other carriers, they work more with going to, let's say, dropping off stuff by the different companies and big places. So they might have a residential fee. USPS does not have a residential fee, so you could ship it anywhere in the U.S. With no extra fees. The other thing to keep in mind is USPS has some pretty neat flat rate shipping options. That means if your product is drop heavier and you're shipping, let's say, from New Jersey, where Fulfillrite is at, you want to ship out to California and different places, this is something that is more complex, so it's not something that an average person would know just by shipping out their stuff. But if you reach out to any fulfillment center, that's something that they can really help you with by shipping out flat rates and stuff.
Okay, and also a question here. So are there other options besides USPS and UPS for postage?
Yes. So the other big one people use is FedEx, and they have ground, they have express. So sometimes, if it's a larger or heavier item, it might be cheaper. They also have something called Smart Post that basically it starts with them and then it ends up going through USPS. So Smart Post is a very cheap option. However, the only problems that we see with Smart Post is, first of all, it takes longer. It could take up to 6 days to get to there. But sometimes, if you have a crowdfunding and you're in no rush to get it to them, that's a great option. The other problem that with Smart Post is that if there's a problem with the address, which again, Fulfillrite always checks addresses beforehand, but if somehow the person moved or they refuse it, with Smart Post, you have to pay for the return shipping.
I see. Okay. And when it comes to FedEx, is it just that it's faster than some of these other options? Like, why would I choose FedEx over? I mean, it's kind of a dumb question, but like, why would I choose FedEx over these other two?
No, that is a great question. One reason why people would use it is because the tracking, right? With USPS, it just says delivered, but it doesn't necessarily have door-to-door tracking. So that's, one reason. It automatically comes with, I think, up to like $100 or something. I would confirm exact amount of insurance, which again, most fulfillment centers will offer you an insurance if you would like on each package going out. Internationally, especially USPS, the tracking, gets worse and worse. So
Yeah.
So if you'd want to ship it internationally, it's also another reason why people would choose the other option.
Okay. I also researched, and I wasn't really too familiar about DHL. What is DHL, and like how does that factor in? Do people use that? Is that an option?
Okay. DHL is something that people do use. There are certain countries that would be cheaper if you use DHL. DHL has it is an option, but that's not something that people jump at right away. Which is, if you reach out to your fulfillment center, they should be able to have their own shipping calculator, and you should figure out, let's say, different countries where it might be worth it to go with DHL.
Okay, and that's like kind of a courier service, right?
Correct.
Okay, cool. So basically you have these different postage options, and I can imagine if you have your physical product and you're having to ship this to someone else, so the first questions would be, is this US or is this international? Is your backer? Second is, what is the weight of the package? What does it look like size-wise? Do you want to pay for a return package? All those different things. Is that something that you help people with, or is there like a calculator or a way to figure that out?
So with Fulfillrite, it's extremely simple. What we obviously, the best scenario is if you can ship your fulfillment center like the actual product, right? Usually you cannot do that because it's being manufactured in China. So it gets a little tricky because your manufacturer might tell you the dimensions is a certain amount, and then it comes in and weighs a drop more, or the size that they gave us is a drop smaller, and we thought we could fit it into an envelope. Now it has to go into something larger or heavier, a box or something. So therefore the pricing could really change. But when we get the dimensions, we have a shipping calculator for, if you want to just check one or two. What we offer is that we can send our customer an exact sheet of what it will cost across the world. That means in the U.S., and anywhere across the world, how much exactly the shipping would cost. Mm-hmm. And that way, you could very easily tell your people exactly how much you want to charge them for shipping, the backers.
Okay. So that's how you would determine how much to either mark up the product if you're not going to include shipping, or how much you would need to add on for shipping, the actual backer there. So I kind of want to just like really quickly paint a picture of how the fulfillment phase looks. Like, you have this product, you get it manufactured somewhere, let's just say China, and then you have all of these products there in China, and you basically have to get those onto the doorstep of a person who could be in the United States, in New York City, they could be in New Jersey, they could be in California, they could be in Germany. This is kind of this big problem. So with the fulfillment company, is what happens, those people in China basically ship the products to you, and then you store it in your warehouse there? Okay,
so I guess we'll start from the beginning. Once it's in our warehouse, obviously we take care of everything from receiving it to shipping it out, which we could discuss more in a second. The first step is to make sure that you find a custom broker who understands how much customs and duties and everything will cost to get it from China to the U.S.
Okay,
I can't stress how important that is. Like, sometimes, if it comes to the fulfillment center, a truckload of stuff or a pallet, and they might say, okay, fine, you owe $3,000 in taxes and duties. There's no way the fulfillment center could receive that. And then it just gets very complicated from there. Obviously, we'll try to reach out to the customer, but if the customer lives in a different time zone, the person's sleeping, it gets very complicated. So it's very important to make sure that all customs and duties are paid for beforehand.
Okay, let me pause you really quickly right there, because I would love to ask this question: is what exactly does that mean? Like, duties and customs. I know for someone who's doing e-commerce for a long time, that might seem very familiar. Like, that's a tax where you are importing these products into the country, right? Like, how does that work? You need to find a duties broker or a customs broker?
Okay, so a lot of fulfillment centers might have someone who knows somewhat about it. We at Fulfillrite, we want to just focus on fulfillment and growing everyone's business and efficiency and make sure everything goes out. So we let's say what we do over here is we're connected with a company that specializes in that.
Oh,
and
okay.
we work hand in hand to make sure that our customers who are reaching out to us have someone who really could understand and help them get it from China to Fulfillrite, to our address, with taxes taken care of, duties taken care of, freight taken care of. Even though we might have some information, we want to make sure that they have somebody who could guide them from A to Z.
Okay. And that's only if you're importing it internationally. If you got this thing manufactured in the United States and you're shipping it within the United States, you don't have to pay any duties or anything like that, right?
Zero.
Okay.
But once we're on the taxes and duties, let me just throw out, is that if you're going to be sending your goods out of the country, that means if you have customers that are waiting for the rewards in Germany or Russia or anywhere around the world, they're going to have to pay duties and taxes in order to receive their product.
Okay. Is the traditional way then for the creator to pay those on behalf of the customer, or is it for the customer to shoulder that burden?
So the simple answer is that it's the customer's responsibility, which again, I would advise people when they're speaking with our partner that we have, or whoever they're going to speak to with regard to tax and duties, because they're very complex. Things change, all the time, and these people study it, and they would have an exact answer of how to make sure, right? Because like in 2019, things change. Like every 6 months change, and therefore, instead of giving half answers, we rather our customers have a full answer and speak to someone who specializes in this area.
Totally. I mean, laws are changing all the time. Relationship between countries is always changing. So, yeah, I think that's a really good bit of advice. So I didn't mean to pause you there. So basically, you then get this shipment of products, assuming all of the duties and taxes have been paid. You then house that in your warehouse, and what happens from that point? I had to interrupt this podcast episode because I want to introduce you to my friends at The Gadget Flow. Their product discovery platform reaches 22 million people per month. They've helped more than 5,000 crowdfunding campaigns thus far, and they have a social media following of more than 700,000 followers. If you want to gain access to their marketplace and list your own product, you can go to thegadgetflow.com/submit and list your project today.
Okay, so what I would suggest to whoever's creating a new product, it's really cool. It's a new product. We get plenty of very, very cool stuff all of the time. So, I'm one who appreciates it. I think just a couple questions when you speak to your fulfillment partner, whoever that might be, is again, don't worry about simple questions. Whatever simple question you can ask. There's the transparency. Is very important. A, to make sure you get all the answers, and B, is to know if this is a good partner for you. You want to be able to have a partner who's open and front with any charges that might come up and what they can do with your products and how their turnover rate and what, any questions you might have. There's no reason why the fulfillment center should not be able to answer you with a smile.
Exactly. Yeah.
One question, just I jotted down a couple questions that it's important to ask your fulfillment center. Are they going to charge you to create an account? Are they going to charge you to have access to your portal integration? Like all these things are fees that you might not think of that could just add up quickly. Are they going to charge you for receiving, right? Are they going to charge you for storage? For example, I know here at Fulfillrite, e-commerce, there's obviously charges to store your stuff here, but if you have a Kickstarter project or crowdfunding, if the products come in and just go out within, a shorter period of time, we wouldn't charge you for storage. It's just, and receiving, is there a charge for that? Is there a charge, and how much would it cost if a container comes?
To
unload the container? these small things, they really add up, and it's worth it to ask these questions.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think also from the inventory storage perspective, like if you're trying to create an online business, not just with this Kickstarter campaign, you basically need to have those products in someone's warehouse. So when it comes to storage, is it like the amount of space that you're taking up, like the number of products? How does storage work with in terms of like a monthly fee? What should people expect, you know?
Great question. So I would say, again, maybe this isn't good for me to say this, but ask the question. Ask if I'm doing a Kickstarter and then I'm going to be left over with 100 products and I want to create into an e-commerce, but it's going to take me 2 months. Is there a grace period? Like if you're going to ask and you're going to ask the question about these grace periods and can we work something out? A lot of fulfillment centers will be happy to work with you, especially if you're doing a project beforehand and you are willing to work with the fulfillment center, because ultimately you're looking for a partner. You want someone who wants to grow with you. You want someone who appreciates your product and who understands the importance of customers receiving products. Like I know myself personally, I don't have time to go shopping, and at home we don't have time, so I order everything online. So I know every day I come home there's a package on my staff. So you want a fulfillment center who really appreciates it and understands it.
Yeah. So let's just say, like, for example, they have an online business and they're selling watches, and like they need to have an inventory worth of like 500 or like 1,000 watches. What would you expect for like some kind of monthly storage fee? Like, is this, $800 a month? Is this like $100 a month? Like, what do people expect there,
Oh, okay. I would say somewhere between $20 and $30, depending on how much stuff you have. Like a pallet is somewhere between 20 and 30. Different fulfillment centers will get to that number differently. Some fulfillment will charge maybe per SKU, and let's say each SKU would be a cubic, but 10 SKUs equal a pallet. So if you have 12
What does that
SKUs,
mean? What is a pallet?
So a pallet typically is 4 feet by 4 feet. It's 40 inches by 40 inches by 55 inches.
Okay.
That's a typical pallet. So some fulfillment centers, I did some research myself. Some fulfillment centers will charge you per pallet, but you could put 25 SKUs on there. Some fulfillment center will charge you per SKU, maybe $3 a SKU, but they'll charge you per SKU. So if you have 10 SKUs, that already adds up. So,
and what is a SKU?
A SKU is an individual product. That means if you have a watch, each color, each size is one SKU. That means if you have the same watch but 4 different colors, each color will be its own SKU. Each size will be its own SKU. So each individual product that could be shipped.
Oh, okay. I see. That's actually pretty reasonable, I think, for storage, honestly. Putting that into the cost of your whole online business, it's kind of really negligible.
Right. But again, the fulfillment centers, I know Amazon, everybody, fulfillment centers don't want to become into a storage house. House. So a lot of them, once your stuff just stays there and there's no sales, they either charge you more or ask you to move on.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I understand.
That's especially if you want storage, there's a lot cheaper storage. You want there's warehouses that just do storage that are probably cheaper.
Mm-hmm. Understandable. Okay, so if I have, let's just say, that watch, and then a few different SKUs, as you say, maybe have 2 pallets worth of this. Let's just say I want to ship this out in a really nice looking box. Is that something that you handle? How do people have really beautiful boxes when they're shipping these out?
Great question. So there's 2 parts to that question. There's the actual box that the watch is in, and then there's the supply box that you want to ship it out in. Okay? Mm. So if we'll go back to a crowdfunding, a Kickstarter. Okay? So if you're going to want the actual supply to be branded, let's say, then the cheapest way to do it is is when you're actually manufacturing it. That's always the cheapest way how to do it, because usually in general, it's cheaper there, and it's not like the fulfillment center has to take things apart and put things back together.
I see. Okay. So when they're manufacturing in China, you have them put it in a nice box there.
Right. Plenty of people I see, and I'm sorry. And when you do that it goes in, it's a supply already in the manufacturing stage, that when it goes to the fulfillment center, the only thing they need to do is put a shipping label on there.
I see.
And you know exactly the dimensions, you know exactly the weight, and fulfillment centers will definitely give you a cheaper price because it's shipping as is, which is cool. Like we have sometimes, let's say, Kickstarter projects that come in and it ships as is. You're able to, the turnover rate is so much quicker also, because you don't have to put it into a new supply, and you just scan it, ship it, and it's out the door.
I see. Okay. So the other thing, so there's sort of like three pillars here, I think. There's the shipping and postage, which we talked a bit about already. There's the inventory storage, and then there's the pick and packing that a fulfillment center does for you. What exactly what comprises that, like pick and pack?
Okay. So if it ships as is, like what we've just spoken about, so that's always the cheapest way how to do it, because it's not going into a second supply. That means you're not going to have to pay to put it into a different envelope or...
I'm speaking to the crowdfunders in the audience who have already launched a Kickstarter campaign, or have actually even successfully run a campaign. And the reason is, I think you will understand this pain point most. And that is, when you finally do raise money on Kickstarter or Indiegogo, the hardest part is not collecting the cash. The hardest part is shipping out all of those perks and rewards to your backers. It is a nightmare, my friends. It's a lot of spreadsheets, it's a lot of headache, and it's a lot of stress. That's why I recommend BackerKit. If you have not heard of BackerKit, they help you collect surveys, they help you collect data, and the entire fulfillment process is just so much easier and so many less spreadsheets when you use their software. You can check them out at backerkit.com and use CrowdCrux for a special discount.
Any other supply that I might need, a box, which obviously you would have to pay the fulfillment center, or if you do it yourself, you would have to pay for the box or the envelope. So you would save on that. Now, pick and pack, typically what we look at is the amount of pieces that are going into it. That means if you're just having one game, then we look at how many orders you'll be having. I mean, if someone's having 200 orders or 1,000 orders, obviously someone having more orders would be able to give a discounted price, which we're looking at usually somewhere about $2 for that first item that goes pick and pack. And once you put in item number 2, that one is again cheaper. That means if this rewards is a game and some accessory, so the accessory is always much cheaper.
Yep.
And the other thing that what we even encourage is someone wants to add a marketing insert. Marketing insert, just like a small card, either saying how appreciative you are for the person or anything, thank you, or a coupon towards your next
purchase, or a discount
purchase,
or
something like that. So that we usually do for about like 20 cents a piece or something, depending again how many orders you're having, and the more orders you have, the greater discounts we're able to give you.
Okay, I understand. So let's just take like an example project. You said board game. So let's take a board game. Let's just say that I've created a killer board game on Kickstarter. It's got a bunch of funding. We now have like 800 backers, and we're looking to get help with fulfillment. What kind of like, you don't have to go fully in depth there, but like ballpark, like what kind of costs can people expect if they want to have a fulfillment house, yours or someone else's, like ship out these products for them?
Okay. Before I go into the cost, I'll go back one step and say that if you're using a fulfillment center, besides for the cost, you also have to remember that you're going to save also.
Oh, totally.
I just sat down with a potential client, and based on the numbers that we ran, they'll be saving by using a fulfillment center.
Yeah, I think the other thing I'll stress right there for you, when I was younger, this I mean like when I was like 21, 22, I was trying to do everything with my business. Like I was trying to do the writing, the website, I was trying to do the sales, I was trying to do like everything under the sun, the social media, forum management, and it just leaves you so freaking drained, man, you know? And I think that a really smart business owner knows the things that they're good at and the things that they're not so good at. I think outsourcing and having people help with you, that not only frees up your time a lot, but also that time has an opportunity cost. You know, if you're not the one that knows how to do shipping, you have to figure out that. You have to learn about it. You then have to actually do the pick and pack. You have to do the inventory storage. You have to do the shipping. That eats up so much of your time, and that actually has a price, you know?
Right.
So in addition to not getting the best rates, you're also spending a lot of your freaking time on it.
Right. And you save a lot on the shipping rates by using a fulfillment center that already has discounted shipping rates, and just the supplies, you know what I'm saying? If you don't know that you could put it into a drop of a smaller supply, you can save a lot by just figuring out what supply goes in and what should you ship it smart post? Should you ship it first class, priority? So these small things you can really save by using a fulfillment center.
Yeah, definitely.
But with regard to cost, the main, we're just giving a ballpark amount, is you'll be looking at, if it's just one item, you'll be looking at $2 around, drop under, drop higher, depending on which fulfillment center you use and how many orders you're going to have. Let's say about $2 for the actual pick and pack and the supply. So if it goes in an envelope, it's obviously a lot cheaper. If it can't go in an envelope, or if you're concerned about the corners, then you have to pay for a supply to put it into a box. Depending on the size, depends on how much it costs.
Okay, so like a board game, kind of like a Monopoly board game. So that's going to cost you like $3, somewhere like around there per item.
Per item, yeah, you're going to be paying, let's say, $2 for the pick and pack, $1 to $2 to even, if it's a Monopoly game, it shouldn't cost you more than for the supply, $1, $2, you know, depending on how big it is. And then it could get more complicated if you're putting in accessories, marketing.
Yeah. And I think that's honestly pretty reasonable. Like, you think about it, all you have to do in order to meet that kind of cost is just to increase the price of the product like a little bit, and then that frees up all of this headache for you. It's like a no-brainer to me. Right,
because the importing you're paying for anyway. For the actual shipping, you're paying for, you know, the actual postage you have to pay for. The only thing you're paying for pretty much is a pick and pack fee and the boxes and stuff.
Yeah. So I have another question for you, but I also want to get into like one or two of the common mistakes that you see happen in this industry. I'm sure you see a ton with different customers you've worked with, but one of the questions I have for you is, rarely do we talk about building a profitable business, because every single product, like if you're selling a product for $100, you're not going to pocket $100. And you obviously have to manufacture it, the costs go into that. Manufacturing, then you have the shipping, the duties, and you also have marketing related costs, etc. What are your thoughts on like estimating these different costs and how you plan for the price of the product?
Great question. The easiest way to do it is to reach out to a fulfillment center as early as possible. And also very important to reach out to a fulfillment center and really tell them what your needs are. Like, sometimes I hang up the phone with a future possible customer and they're saying, "Thank you so much, I really appreciate it." And it's just surprising me because I just told them that we're not a good fit for them. So like, that's what you want to find, a fulfillment center that's honest and transparent, and not, yeah, we could do anything for you. You want to make sure they really hear you out and make sure that they can really help you and fit for your product. Like, certain fulfillment centers are good for smaller items. Some are good for freight for big items. Some are fragile. Like, I know here at Fulfillrite, if it's a fragile glass item, we try to stay away from it. Certain fulfillment centers specialize in fragile. So it's just reach out to the fulfillment center in the early stage, not like after, which goes to your next question, mistakes people make. Is not wait till you have 800 people already. They're all excited with your new game, let's say, or whatever your product is. And then you reach out to somebody and then you call the custom and duties place, and they say, oh, it's going to cost you $2,000 to bring it in. And then on top of freight, again, that's just a random number I'm throwing out. And then you call the fulfillment center, oh, you want to put 6 items into each order? That's going to cost you $3 an order, $4 an order. So it's really, really important to, before you even begin, to reach out to a fulfillment center.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's hard. Like, I know customers call and they didn't even start, and they don't have the questions, and they're not sure what to ask. So it's very important to do what I think you do extremely well, is ask that question. What else am I supposed to ask? Like, what else is there that I should know about?
Mm-hmm. Well, so on that front of maybe some of the mistakes you've seen of people who have come to you, do you have any thoughts on that point? Maybe mistakes in terms of they really botched up their whole fulfillment process because they didn't think of something, or in the reward, maybe after the campaign was finished, they didn't go about it very well, or any thoughts on that? You don't have to name names, obviously, but like...
Oh, for sure. A simple problem that we find that happens is you got to make sure your factory in China really sends you like good pictures. You can really see what's going on. Like any high-tech fulfillment center, everything needs to have a scannable UPC or some type of scannable SKU or barcode on the product, right? So therefore, when it comes in, you could scan it and everything gets updated on the web portal. The customer could see, our client, the customer could see exactly how many products are in inventory, when it gets shipped out, how many are left, and then that way, right?
And that happens on the manufacturer side. They put on that barcode?
Yes. So you would want the manufacturer to do it, because obviously while they're doing it, they're putting on some kind of label. It's a lot cheaper than when it comes to the fulfillment center. And I'll sometimes have, let's say, 4 different SKUs come, 4 different products, and I don't know what's what.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, it's not labeled correctly, and then we have to go and sticker every single product. Sometimes it could be 5 different products, and especially if the customer of ours is overseas somewhere with a time difference, and it's going to cost you more. It's not going to be, the turnover rate will take much longer, and it's just a mistake that could easily be avoided if you have a good contact with your manufacturer.
So make sure you get photos and make sure that they put on some kind of a barcode so it's easy for the person to identify the different SKUs of the product.
Right. Like I just have right now some customer who the manufacturer swapped it. They put the wrong barcode. All the barcodes that were supposed to go on A went on B, and B went on A.
Oh my gosh.
And so if it would just be the barcode, that would be one thing, because then we could just switch it internally in the system. But it had a whole description about this being blue and it's really red, and the other one said about being red and was really blue. So
that's a nightmare.
Yeah, it's just a simple mistake that now you're going to call your manufacturer and you're going to want them to reimburse you and back and forth. But if you catch it while it's still there, that would save you a lot of time and effort and aggravation.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing being there too, like you have to write that. If you have like 800 products, you have to figure out a solution for that. And dealing with the manufacturer in China, the laws there are not always super
Right.
fluid, so it might be difficult to get a reimbursement. So like,
Oh, for sure.
what's another What's another mistake that you've seen, in your line of work? Because you're in the warehouse also, in addition to the front office.
Right. A different mistake that I would say is you should try to really, really get the right dimensions of your product. Because let's say if you're gonna base your whole charging your rewards based on, obviously you're gonna call a fulfillment center, they're gonna give you a price of how much I think it's gonna cost. And if you're going to tell the fulfillment center your product is 10 8 by 2, and it's going to go into a supply of a 1310 by 3, and it's a drop, if it's a drop higher and it's not going to fit into that supply, the whole cost could go up 50 cents a piece, $1 a piece. 800 people is $800 in a second.
Yeah. So not having that correct could really bite you.
Correct.
It's kind of almost just like being super diligent about it, like double checking your work and really making sure that you have the right dimensions and everything is right and in order. Sort of like diligence, I guess you would say. Right.
It's really hard to like assume stuff. You really don't want to assume that your fulfillment center knows your needs, that the reward, that everyone knows your needs. You have to really just ask the simple questions like we started with. It's just extremely important to ask simple questions, like anything that you might not be sure about. It's worth it to just bring it up.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think there's a lot of really great answers. This has covered a lot of the questions I had for you. I didn't think we were going to get through all of them, but I guess one question I had for you, and you actually told me always to ask this, is should there be anything else that should be on the mind, aside from like asking great questions? Should there be anything else that I should have asked you or that I'm not thinking of when it comes to fulfillment?
Other things that might come to mind with regard to fulfillment. I guess you want to also ask the fulfillment center if they can have tracking on every package, and does the tracking automatically get emailed to the customer? Like I know we have it that you can set up if you upload your orders, which brings me to the next point is how does integration work? Do you have to upload the orders? Can you just do a CSV file? Is it working with Shopify? It's very important because you want to know exactly how much work it's going to be to actually get the orders from your information to Fulfillrite. We know that there are different apps and stuff that you can work with to make that simple. And the other thing that I think is really important is to just ask them to have a good look at it when the products come. As in, I know here at Fulfillrite, any new product that comes, we again check the dimensions, we again check the weight. And I just had a Kickstarter project. I have half a year ago or something. The guy had about 800 orders, something about 800, 900 orders. And when it came in, it was a drop smaller than we anticipated. And the customer asked us to ship it a certain way. It was USPS priority. And after putting on the scale and checking the dimensions, I actually thought of an idea of how to ship it flat rate that we've discussed earlier, a USPS flat rate. And I seriously saved the guy about $5,000.
Wow. Jeez.
And it was a heavy product, and it was able to fit into a certain size envelope that we seriously saved him somewhere around $5,000 because the supply that just on the supply we saved him, plus on the postage, and the guy was going crazy. Obviously, he was like, I asked him, "You want me to do it?" He's like, "Yeah." But it was
no-brainer, yeah.
Right. No, it's just a good feeling for me, that you're here to help people, and obviously, if I would have gone the other way, the way he wanted to go, we would have made more because we would use our supplies and everything. But you want a fulfillment center that really wants to partner with you and looking out for your best interest.
Definitely. Also on that point of tracking, like when backers are asking for, hey, does your project offer tracking? Like, am I going to know when I get this in the mail? Does the postage handle that, or like how does that work?
Cool. So we have it in our system at probably most fulfillment centers that it automatically, if an order is uploaded together with an email, that email address that's associated with the order will get an email that this package got shipped and here's your tracking information.
Wow, that's so cool, man.
Yeah.
And you're making me nerd out about this now.
It's just the feedback we get is what keeps us going. The feedback that always comes back is like, wow, your turnover rates, or here at Fulfillrite, our customers are so thrilled. When I have extra time, I go onto some of our customers' sites and go through their feedback just to see how happy their customers are with the shipping. And it's just so amazing how shipping is what really makes people happy. You know, like they get an email and, you know, because of a lot of times our customers will tweet out that the rewards have reached the fulfillment center, and then 2 hours later they get an email that with a tracking number. They're like, what?
It's really, that's great. Neat. That's awesome, man. So the final question I have for you here is, I just wanted to really quickly ask if you could describe, like, what is your typical day like? Like, you wake up, do you start like in the warehouse? You answering customer calls? Like, what's your day like? Okay,
I don't start before I drink my coffee. So that's how I start my day.
Me too. Yeah, coffee.
Coffee. The office typically opens here at a regular day at 9. So I like to, because I deal with customers so much and I want to have actually hands-on. It's like really cool when a customer calls and has questions and there's somebody who knows what's going on. I start my day in the warehouse. It's also really nice that the team who works in the warehouse sees that I'm there, I'm involved, and I'm happy to help. So it's great, and just to get the day started. In a fulfillment sense, you don't know. At 10 o'clock, some shipment might show up that could take 3 hours, or some customer could have a sale, which is always nice to let the fulfillment center know beforehand that you're having a sale, but you don't always get that heads up. And all of a sudden there's 500 extra orders that you weren't anticipating. So I always enjoy getting the warehouse started and spend the first hour helping the guys out. We like to start early because, like I said, we don't know what goes on. Mm-hmm. And then I like to spend time in the front, in the offices. I know sometimes our customer service reps, our sales team, our IT department, there's a lot of going on in the front, and they have questions. Oh, in the warehouse, what's with this? What's with that? Oh, I have a customer whose shopping cart, he wants to know what's with that order. So it just, I spend some time, just answering everyone's questions and seeing where I could be of help if someone's falling behind, something I could help out. And
awesome.
That's pretty much how I spend my time. And then I have, again, a coffee.
That afternoon coffee. I'm actually getting towards that right now. Oh. Awesome, Joe. Well, it's been great to talk with you. I think this is great. Like the level of transparency you guys have, sharing all of this information for anyone out there that's planning a campaign. I think, thinking about this as soon as possible is exactly what you need to be doing. So if you have any questions, I urge you guys, go and reach out to Fulfillrite. If you want to ask me, you can also email me. I'll forward it to those guys. But they seem to be very helpful, I think, with answering questions. So I urge you, if you are in that process, also to consider sort of the value of outsourcing this component, because it is sometimes a nightmare if you're trying to do that all yourself and figuring all of that out and the shipping and everything. So I urge you guys to reach out to them. But Joe, thank you so much for coming on, and we'll have to do another episode maybe on technology behind fulfillment or something else on those lines, because you've really piqued my interest there.
Cool. Yes, and just I'll throw out, you can shoot us an email. You can go on fulfillrite.com, and there's a support thing. And even if we're not for you, even if, if we're not the greatest fit for your product, or for your Kickstarter project, which we do tons of them, feel free to email us, call us, and ask us questions. We're always here, happy to help.
Great, thanks so much. Let me tell you about our latest sponsor, SendPro Online by Pitney Bowes. Shipping can be complex. Things can get really confusing really fast. With SendPro Online, it's easy to save time and money no matter what you send, from letters and packages to overnights and flats. You can easily compare USPS, UPS, and FedEx in an all-in-one online tool. You can print shipping labels and stamps directly from your printer. You can even track all of your shipments and get email notifications when they've arrived. SendPro Online is only $14.99 a month, and listeners can get a free 30-day trial when you visit pb.com/crowdcrux. That's pb.com/crowdcrux. Experience the convenience of SendPro Online for yourself when you sign up for a free 30-day trial. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Crowdfunding Demystified podcast. My name is Salvador Briggman. I hope you got something out of this episode where we talked very candidly about fulfillment, about shipping, about postage, all of the sort of non-sexy, not so fun topics, but I try to bring a little bit of spice to it. I try to make it fun, and I also think it's one of those things where, like, I think there are more shiny components of running a crowdfunding campaign, like raising, $500,000 is freaking awesome, man, or doing marketing or doing sales. These things are kind of like more fun and a little bit more popular when it comes to education, but actually what enables you to do that, what enables you to fulfill these crucial promises that you're making to backers, is reward fulfillment, is shipping out those perks, is making sure you have the costs estimated correctly so that when you do the manufacturing, when you do the packaging, when you get this out there to someone, that you actually end up having a profitable business. If you don't do that, you could end up being in the red, or you could end up not thinking about this one cost or this duty you have to pay, and then this eats into your margins. I want you to have a profitable and a successful business. In order to do that, you have to be aware of this sort of not so fun, very like diligent spreadsheet, nitty gritty aspect of the campaign. And I'm trying to bring that to you, man, in the simplest way possible, and recommend some of those tools that make this process so much easier. Thank you for tuning into this episode. I think you're going to like next episode a lot, and I will see you next time.